Habakkuk Chapter 2. Habakkuk 2:1. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and I will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. Watch, Mishmarti, my guard post, from Shamar, to keep, to guard, to observe closely. The same root Genesis 2:15 uses for Adam keeping the garden. Tower, in the Hebrew text Matzor, not the ordinary word for tower, migdal. Matzor is a siege work, a bound or fortified place, from the root sur, to bind, to confine, to besiege, the same root that gives Mitzrayim, Egypt, the bound place, and Matzah, the unleavened bread, eaten in the narrow confinement before the Exodus. Watch to see, tsafa, to peer out, to keep lookout, the same root behind mitzpah, the pillar Jacob and Laban raised as a fixed witness between them, standing while they themselves walked apart. Reproved, tokachat, correction through reasoned argument, from Za'aq of the Chaldeans. Habakkuk does not station himself on an open lookout. He stations himself on a bound, compressed structure, a fortification named from the same root as the narrow place Israel was pressed inside before its own release. The watch is not a wandering search. It is a fixed post, built from the same root as confinement and compression, holding still while the answer moves. Habakkuk 2:2. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision, and make it plain upon tables, that he may run and readeth it. Write, katav, to inscribe, to cut a permanent mark, plain, ba'ir, to make distinct, to engrave clearly, the same root behind be'ir, a well, a dug, and opened source. Tables, Luchot, flat, inscribed surfaces, the identical word used for the tablets of the covenant at Sinai, the same fixed surface already named as the 13-month cathedral calendar, the physical geometric capacitor built to hold this resonance permanently. Run, ruts, to move at speed. The vision is not spoken once and left airborne. It is cut into a fixed surface, Luchot, so that motion, ruts, can be built on top of something that does not itself move. The motion of time is built upon something that does not itself move, the 13-month cathedral calendar. Habakkuk 2:3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak, and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Appointed time, moed, a fixed meeting point, the same word naming the feasts, the appointed times of Leviticus 23. End, ketz, a cut edge, a terminus, from katsats, to cut off. Speak and not lie, yafiak, to breathe out, to pant, to utter. Not the ordinary dabar for speech, but a word carrying the sense of breath forced outward. Tarry, maha, to delay, to linger. The vision's own arrival is described with a breath word, yafiak, panted out at its own fixed moed, arriving as an exhalation rather than an ordinary utterance. Habakkuk 2:4. Behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Lifted up, Uplah, swollen, puffed, from a root meaning to be proud, to swell beyond true size, upright. Yashar, the identical root already carried through Sefer ha-Yashar, the book of the upright. Faith, Emunah, from the same root Aman, the root behind Amen. Steadfastness, that which can be leaned on without buckling. The swollen soul, Uplah, stands opposite the upright one, yashar, and what sustains the upright is Emunah, the identical root as the Amen, the Chaldean work could not be trusted to bear, in verse 5. What the vision could not be believed to hold in chapter 1 is by chapter 2 what the just man stands on. Habakkuk 2:5-6. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. Shall not all these things take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him? Proud, yahir, arrogant, swollen again. A synonym running parallel to Uplah in verse 4. Parable, mashal, the same governing comparison root already carried in chapter 1 verse 14. Ruler, mashal, without whom the vessel is reams, ground bound. Here mashal returns as the taunt itself, the governing word turned against the one who sought to govern beyond his measure. Habakkuk 2:7-8. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Bite, nashak, to strike as a serpent strikes, the same root used for serpent bite throughout the Torah. Awake, quats, to rouse, to wake with a start. The recoil is described as a serpent strike, nashak, a term carrying the same low, ground-bound register as reams, creeping things from chapter 1, verse 14. The field's own fragmentation, turning to bite the one who fragmented it. Habakkuk 2:9-11. For the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. Stone, eben, from the same root as even, the letter image already carried through aleph and bet, fused, the spark entering the house. Beam, kafis, a rare word, a wooden rafter or crossbeam, the same horizontal register as the weaver's beam. The loom, weaving the fabric of the 12-month matrix, here answering back rather than only weaving forward. Cry out, Za'aq, the identical root as Habakkuk's own opening cry in chapter 1, verse 2. The prophet's own cry, unanswered in verse 2, is by chapter 2 given back to him from the stone and timber themselves, the built structure taking up the same Za'aq the man could not get answered. Habakkuk 2:12-13. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and stablisheth a city by iniquity. The people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall weary themselves for very vanity. Blood, dam, the identical root already carried inside damam, stand thou still, blood as both the mortal pulse and the root of the word for cessation. Vanity, rick, emptiness, the same root as verse 17's empty, wreck, the net poured clean. A city built on dam is built on the very substance that in Joshua falls silent at the threshold. Habakkuk 2:14. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. Filled, male, to fill completely, no remainder. Knowledge, da'at, from yada, to know by direct contact, the same root behind Adam yada his wife, knowledge as union rather than abstraction. Glory, kavod, from kaved, heavy, weighty substance, the counterpart to the emptiness, rick, named twice already. The verse states a filling with weighted substance, kavod, precisely where verse 3 and 13 named emptiness, rick, and breath panting, yafiak, the vacuum finally taking on mass. Waters covering the sea is Neptune's own 600 boundary reached, the dielectric reservoir filled to its full macrospatial capacity. Habakkuk 2:15 through 17. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Nakedness. Maor, a rare word closely built on the more common or light maora, a nakedness or exposure, the covering stripped from a light-bearing form. Foreskin, orla, an uncircumcised covering, from the same consonantal family as or, skin, and arel, uncovered, the removal of a boundary layer that ordinarily insulates, the same eighth-day rupture that opens the mercy seat, the side wound, releasing what the covering once held closed. Habakkuk 2:18 through 19. What profiteth the graven image? There is no breath at all in the midst of it. Graven image. Pesel, a carved cut form. Breath, ruach, the identical word already carried from chapter 1, verse 11. His mind change, ruach, and Genesis 1:2, the Spirit of God moving upon the waters. The idol is defined by the single word already carrying the whole model's architecture. No ruach, no breath in its midst. The exact term whose presence or absence separates Shem from name. But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Temple, Hekal, the great hall, from a Sumerian loan word meaning great house. Keep silence, has, an onomatopoeic word, the sound of silence itself, a hushing exclamation rather than an ordinary verb, the same interjection used to command quiet in a room, has. The chapter that opened on Za'aq, a cry unanswered, closes on has, the sound word for silence itself, sealing the same movement from cry to hush already carried through Damam.